This is Charlie Winston. You're watching my interview with New Scott at newscott.com.
Alright, I'm back here with another New Scott interview, and today I am here with the British giant, Charlie Winston. How you doing today, Charlie?
Not bad, man. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Good, man.
Were you a fan of professional wrestling growing up?
Absolutely. Since I was about 5 years old.
How old are you now?
I'm 22.
Okay.
Since my dad watched it when he was a teenager, and he kind of brought me up on it. He was watching WWE at the time in our living room, and I just walked in and sat down on the couch, and I haven't really kind of looked back since, to be honest. It was just addictive to watch, as everyone else says.
Do you remember what was on the TV when you walked in?
Oh god.
Like what time frame would have this been?
So that would have been 2001.
Okay.
I kind of started watching when the era where John Cena kind of broke out.
Yeah.
Hence why I was a John Cena mark all my life. People give me heat for that, but, you know. But yeah, that's the kind of time that I started breaking out.
So what was it about professional wrestling that drew you to it?
That's a good question. It was more, the one thing I love about pro wrestling is that how different it is.
Yeah.
I've never been into football or soccer, as you guys know. We'll have that throughout the interview, just my English words with your guys' words. I was never into football or anything like that. I found the thing I liked about pro wrestling is how different it is, and it engages the crowd so much. And you just get an energy that I've never kind of experienced anywhere else before. And I know people who have hated wrestling and they go to a show or they watch a match and they're just instantly hooked. My mom was like that. She absolutely hated pro wrestling, and the idea of me wrestling was like, but I took her to a show one day and she never looked back. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Who were, you mentioned John Cena, but who were some of your favorite guys to watch?
As I said, I grew up on him. Jeff Hardy was always another one of my favorites. I was always a big fan of Cody Rhodes as well.
Okay.
Some good workers there. They were like the three main people that I really enjoyed watching.
Nice.
Obviously Cody Rhodes in the later years, but yeah. People who know me will realize how much of a John Cena fan it was. Kind of sad, and I kind of probably shouldn't talk about that one because
he's a pretty good role model.
Yeah, some would say.
Now, generally, when I ask most people this next question, it's what was it about professional wrestling that made you think you could do it? Because as a kid, I watched it, and those guys were gigantic. Yeah. At what point did you realize, like, hey, I'm the same size as those guys?
Well, that's a good question. I was never like particularly, it was always something I was interested in doing. And then when I kind of hit 10 or 11, it was something that I was like, okay, like I really want to do this. And then when I probably hit 13, 14 years old, I actually started growing. And I was like, okay, like I'm 14 and I'm like 6'2" now.
Right.
And I actually started, I remember sitting at home and I'd see someone, I don't know, I'd see Kane or The Undertaker on TV and I'd be like, huh, he looks tall. I wonder how tall he actually is. And
right.
I'd Google it, find out how tall he is, and I'm like, okay, I'm like 20 years younger than him and I'm like 4 inches away from his height. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'm sure in 20 years time I can be that size, so it just kind of went from there really.
Were you always like bigger, or were you thin and then started lifting weights?
No, I was a pretty skinny kid.
Yeah.
I was tall. I was always fairly broad-shouldered, but up until kind of 17, I was pretty skinny. Okay. But up until kind of 17, that's when I started eating a lot, hitting the gym, all that kind of thing. That's when I actually kind of put size on. But I was always that kind of lanky kid in high school.
A lot of people over here, when they realize they're taller, play like basketball or something like that. Is basketball big?
Oh yeah, I had played a lot of basketball in high school. I actually had trials for England when I was 15 or 16. So basketball was actually like, it was kind of my second sport that I really enjoyed playing,
Okay.
but it was never something I really wanted to do.
Okay.
So kind of actually after I had that tryout, that's kind of where I started winding down, because it just wasn't where I wanted to put my energy into. I was really happy that I ended up getting that,
Yeah.
and that was something I never ever thought I'd achieve or even put any energy into trying to achieve. But yeah, I was grateful for that. But basketball's great, but it's just not something I wanted to do.
How old were you when you stopped playing basketball?
It was probably as I left high school.
Okay.
So probably around 16, something like that.
Did you play any other sports like rugby or football?
No,
Soccer, football?
I was never.
Your football?
I was never into football.
Okay.
If you'd seen me play football, you'll understand why. I was just always that big kid that they're chucking the goal because you cover a wide surface area.
Rugby?
Rugby, I played a couple games. I was fairly good at it, but again, it's just nothing had my attention as much as pro wrestling did, so that's kind of why I never really put my energy into that.
Right. Now, independent wrestling is fairly huge and always has been in the United Kingdom. What part of the United Kingdom are you from?
I'm from a place called Norwich.
Okay.
It's 2 hours east of London.
Right. Now, that's known as being where Paige is from and her
Yep.
family. They're on a training school there. Did you? How did you discover independent wrestling was in your area?
It's actually all thanks to my mum, because she does the research. In 2010, we moved to Norwich, and my mum, it was always something I wanted to do. I always spoke about it, but it was something we never knew about. So my mum was looking up on the internet, and she found a company called WAW, and it just so happened it was about 10 minutes from my house. So after all the talking and all that kind of thing, we just came across a video clip, and Mum showed me it, and kind of the next week me, Mum and Dad went along to the training school, and it just started from there, really.
Had you attended any shows like as a fan?
Yeah. My first show was Earl's Court, which is in London, 2007. I actually got to see my first show. I got to see it was Cena versus Michaels, and they went about 50 minutes on Raw.
I remember that match.
Yeah.
Was that the Raw?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
Raw, yeah.
I
That was
remember
my
that
first
match.
show that I actually
Yep.
attended, so that was pretty good. So I was pretty lucky to see that one, because the crowd was hot for that.
Did you go to any indie shows, or was it just WWE?
I never really grew up on like the smaller independent companies.
Okay.
Like it was never. I was always just.
I didn't know it existed.
Yeah. Like I really didn't know like a hell of a lot about it at the time.
Okay.
I was WWE was literally just all I watched, like literally religiously. Like getting back from school, it was just wrestling until just the whole day. I didn't know many places to go for it. As I said, I was pretty young, so my knowledge on wrestling wasn't huge. All I knew that I was just watching the TV, and I was like, yeah.
Right. I didn't discover. I mean, I heard of Grand Prix, but I didn't really understand what it was, and until I was about your age is when I discovered indie wrestling, and I was like, oh my god, where's this been all my life? So you were trained by the Knight family, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was. Those guys know more than most people. Obviously, they have a great reputation around the world.
Yeah.
Training was very intense, but the amount of knowledge you'd get, they'd have training. They used to have training camps every month.
Yeah.
So you'd go, and they'd basically do 2 days of the weekend, and you'd train from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. on the Saturday, and then the Sunday same time, but then they'd do an academy show at the end. So basically it's just a show for all the guys who are up and coming to just be able to get in front of a extremely a very small crowd, 50 people.
Right, like CZW does with the dojo.
Yeah. But that was at the time, I started there in 2010, and that was at the time before, that was a couple years before Paige got signed to WWE.
Okay.
So I managed to get some training in with her and that kind of stuff before she got signed.
What was that like? Could you tell that? I mean, you probably didn't really know the difference, but
Yeah,
could you tell,
I was like,
there's something special about her?
Yeah, I mean, like, when I walked in, there was so much...
She would have been really young, too.
Yeah,
You think she was signed when she was 19 or something?
Yeah,
20?
she must have been... I don't know how old she must have been. She was in her teens, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But as I said, I was a kid, so I couldn't really...
How old were you when you started training?
I think it was just before my 15th birthday.
Okay, so you were really young too.
Yeah. There was a load of kind of... I knew there was a lot going on for her and a lot going on for Zach as well, my brother. And there was a lot of hype around them, and I knew they were doing a lot of great things with, that kind of thing. But I was actually at a show, one of the academy shows, and they announced that those two had tryouts.
Yeah.
And I'm like nearly turning 15. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, it was crazy to be able to get. I'm glad I got to have some training with her before she got signed, because the girl knows so much. I'm very, very happy. I'm happy to be able to have said that I could have done that.
Who was the main trainer there? Was it the father?
Yeah, it was Ricky owns the company.
Yeah.
It's his company, and then you've got his wife, Julia.
Yeah.
They kind of run it together. Zach, his son, also helps Ricky run it as well. But they'd also bring like guest trainers as well, like all the English legends. They'd come in during the weekends, and you'd get time with them in the ring, and they'd show you sequences. Like, you'd have to learn like sequences of like 10 or 12 moves, and just they'd get you in there, see what you can do, criticize it, and go on to the next thing, really. So like the quality of training there is really, really good.
One of the only guys that I can remember that was brought over here from the UK was James Mason.
Okay, yeah.
Did you ever have any training with him or anything?
I didn't know. The first time I met James Mason was last year. Okay.
He was out here in 2007 for Wrestling Reality.
Yeah. He's like one of the most rated workers in the world. The guy's so good. The first time I actually met him was last year when I was over in Germany for POW. Okay. And he was booked. And I got to the hotel, and I was told I was rooming with someone. I went in, and no one was there. And a couple of hours later, he ends up opening the door and walks in, and I'm like, oh, no way. That's awesome. Trying to get some knowledge off this guy, because
I mean, he was only over here for probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, and a lot of my friends got to wrestle him, and they were like, we were in holds where we had to spit to figure out whether we were facing up or down, right? And when it hit me in the face, I realized what direction it was going.
I've only ever done a rumble with him, and like even then, like usually rumbles, there's not really too much to them. Yeah. But even the amount of knowledge I managed to get from him then was just crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy that he never. I mean, he had a bunch of tryouts and stuff over the years, but it's crazy that he never.
Oh yeah, I know.
Never made it.
He's a really nice guy. Like, he always came up to me and gave me feedback whenever I didn't even ask for it or anything like that. Someone like that, is busy doing his own thing. But to get like just any feedback or anything like that is really, really helpful.
Was there something about training that was easier for you to catch on to, and on the other side, was there something that was more difficult?
Training was not easy for me to catch on to at all. When I first started, the way they do it on their training weekends is, to start off with, you have to do, they call them the 6 bumps. So you get into the ring, you do your back bump, your front bump, your flip bump, you run the ropes, you take the post-ins, and you jump out of the ring over the top. Okay. And I got in there for my first time. I think it was like I want to say like a 12 by 12 or 14 by 14. It's a very small ring, like really small. And I went to take my first bump, and I just couldn't, like, there's a mental block in my head. So you're doing it in front of, there's about 60 people attending the weekend. So you're one young kid in the ring doing it in front of all these guys that wrestled for ages. And I went to take my first bump, and I just couldn't do it. So I actually had to get everyone to count me in to be able to do my bumps. That's like, I was petrified of training when I started. But kind of over the years, I kind of learned to let go a bit and just got to go for it. In terms of like, as I grew up, in terms of, I found doing like things like brawling and power moves and all that kind of stuff, as the bigger I got, I found that that came to me a lot easier.
Right.
But yeah, training was not fun for me in any way.
How long did you train for before you had your first match?
It took me a year and 3 months to have my first match.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people were in your training class?
It depends. A rough estimate, you'd probably, some weekends would have like 60 or 70 people. Some weekends.
Per class?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people
Yeah,
really busy.
Did you get a lot of time in the ring with how long did you train for like each day?
Well, as I said,
because over here there's like 4 or 5 like
oh yeah,
tops.
and you'd have like people of different like nationalities and stuff as
okay.
well.
Wow,
just because like they're so rated that they have so much hype around them, and they're just so rated all over the world. People just they will just go to their classes no matter where they're from. But like sessions would be like 8 or 9 hours a day, and they'd kind of split you off into 2 groups.
Right.
One group would have the ring, another group would be doing like technical holds on the mats and all that kind of thing. Right. So you were never sitting around waiting. That's for sure.
Now that you've been over here and trained over there, what's the difference do you find the biggest in the training over here compared to England? Is it England or the UK or what?
England, yeah.
England?
Yeah,
okay.
Dude, I get confused with that as well. I get confused with that as well.
Would you say it's harder where you were from?
Yeah. I'd say like it was very weird coming over here and seeing the training that happens.
Right.
Like it doesn't seem as structured over here.
Right.
Like it's kind of do 6 or 7 weeks and then go out and wrestle. It was never ever like that for me at all. As I said, it took me a year and 3 months to get my first match.
The longest I've seen someone train here before they had a match was 3 months.
That's crazy. Like I don't even like, for me, like how can you even have the ability to know what you're doing after 3 months?
Right.
Like I had no idea.
Yeah. Imagine just said she was 6.
Exactly.
So yeah.
6 months.
Like that's still not that long. Like
no.
Stories I hear from other people was like a year, and that was the point I was trying to make. Like it's so different here compared to everywhere else.
And I was never paid for my first few matches, and neither was I ever expected to get paid.
Right.
But then I come over here and see people be trained for 3 months, and then they're like, okay, I can go out and get paid for wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but everyone's just brought up differently, and everyone's got a different.
And it's just this generation. When I've never wrestled, obviously, but I've been around since 2001. It wasn't like that back then either. It's just the new generation of talent that is way different than like Mike Hughes and Brody Steele's era of coming in, right? And that's when I started coming to shows. It's just way different. I don't get it at all.
Of course. And I still watch people who have been through that amount of training and think like, oh my god, you could need so much more training before you go out there
and you can really tell the difference of someone that's gone through, or like from my opinion, which doesn't mean much, you can tell the difference of someone that's gone through a real training class as yourself and someone that hasn't, right? Like it's a world of difference.
Absolutely. I think training is so beneficial.
Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't want to go into the ring with someone who's had 3 months training. But
you probably have done it many times now. So your first match was a year and a bit after you started training. What are your memories of that first match, and who was it against? Or was there anyone else in your training class that has gone on to do anything so far that like people might know?
It depends how well people are caught up on like the UK indie scene. There's a guy who's called Kip Sabian.
Okay.
And he's like doing so well on the indie scene at the moment. He's wrestling for like IPW and all those, like all the big promotions. Obviously, Paige's brother has traveled all over the world. Zach. Yeah. Also, Roy has as well.
Right.
Like
that's the other brother.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of it. I was like, I know there's another one.
Yeah, those guys are everywhere back home. Trying to think if anyone else has. I don't want to forget anyone.
Buried.
there's a girl called Aisha.
Okay.
Aisha Raymond. She's everywhere as well, and she's traveling so much.
She's amazing.
Yeah, so you talked about her, right?
Yeah, she's like my dream opponent in England.
Yeah, she's like doing really, really well. As in my first match, it was a triple. I had like 5 triple threat matches within the first 7 weeks of actually starting to have matches. My match was a triple threat match. It was against a guy called Milky O'Hagan and a guy called Alex Young.
Did you train with these guys, or were they already wrestlers?
They were already wrestlers.
Okay.
Alex Young, if nobody knows him, check him out, because I say this to him all the time, and I'll say it to anyone. That guy is one of the best workers I've ever seen. Just one of those people that hasn't had a chance to get out there, and who hasn't gone out there, but he's wrestled so many people, ex-WWE people, and they've been you can do what you want,
That's awesome.
Just absolutely brilliant. And I can never say enough about him, because I find it so hard seeing people who are so good at what they do, but just don't have the platform to. But yeah, I was scared shitless when I was going out. I was. It went really well, actually. They were telling me how happy they were with the match, and I'd done better than expected of me. I remember wearing my first match of this will tell you how much of a John Cena fan I was. I had
Is there footage of this somewhere?
There is, actually, and no one's going to see it. I had black boots on. I had knee pads, and then I had 3/4 length shorts. Pretty sure they were jean shorts.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. And I was it makes me cringe looking back at it now.
That's awesome. Could they see you?
No, they couldn't. It was a good match. I found it hard, as I said. I learned in a very small ring, and because I was a really tall person, you couldn't just get from one side of the ring to the other was, very easy, and that made it quite difficult.
Yeah, you would have had take 2 steps to get across the ring,
literally,
right?
just start running the ropes in 2 steps, and you're at the other one. It's it was nuts.
Was that match for WAW?
It was, yeah.
Now, I've heard a lot of stories from a lot of people. That's one thing that doesn't necessarily happen around here, because the trainers don't have a promotion.
Yep.
But I've heard stories from other people that when they're finished training, they're only expected to work for the promotion that trained them.
Okay.
Is that something the most popular story out there probably is Kevin Owens. It was Kevin Steen when he was trained by Jacques Rougeau, that they were expected to only work for him in Quebec and nobody else.
Okay.
But that happens to a lot of different people that I've talked to in the States and whatnot. Was that something that was over there, or were you free to go wherever you want?
Well,
because when Gary ran his training school, Gary didn't run a wrestling promotion, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing for him to say.
I think there was definitely a sense of they are the people that you grew that trained you, that they taught you how to wrestle, they taught you what's right and wrong. There was definitely a thing that you go to them first if you want to go anywhere, which is absolutely understandable.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if it's a thing.
No, for sure. It wasn't so much with them.
Yeah.
I have heard of it being a thing over there. You find that stuff anywhere.
Right.
It just depends who you're with.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much of a thing.
Nice. Did you branch out and work for other promotions over there?
I was with WAW for quite a while.
How old were you? So you were 16 when you had your first match, if you're training at 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was just before I was 16.
Okay.
I had my first match. I was with them for quite a while. I branched out to a few little, smaller promotions around before I came over here. But there's it's hard back home, because Norwich, the place where I live, you could pretty much compare it to Dartmouth or Halifax. It is very much out of the way from where other promotions are.
Right.
And finding good talent in the UK isn't particularly hard. There's so many. The UK is so oversaturated with great wrestlers.
Yeah.
That
Why is that? Compared to everywhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And over the years,
Good
like
point.
it's gotten like just the amount of wrestlers there are, it's just built and built and built.
Yeah.
And you find that like promoters aren't, so they don't need to pay for people to travel from a far distance, so it isn't as easy. There's certainly not a lack of promotions, but I didn't branch out at the time to a humongous amount.
Okay.
But I did definitely wrestle for a handful of promotions.
Did you go to shows like after you were trained, like to see other talent and stuff that was coming in, or did you just stick to WAW shows?
I definitely went around and kind of done my homework and all that kind of thing. I definitely paid attention to who was like about. Obviously, the first couple of years, like, you know, I'm just a trainee. It's like, you know, I'm just trying to get a grasp, a hold of kind of what to do. But definitely when I was kind of, I think there's a point you start training, and then once you've done your training and you kind of start cluing into kind of the business side of it, that's kind of when I started becoming more kind of acutely aware of what's going on actually around in wrestling.
There's a promoter over in England that everyone within the wrestling industry knows, and it seems like he's been promoting for 100 years. Like, I've read William Regal's book, and that's who he started with, and he's still promoting now. Brian Dixon. Have you ever had any dealings or working for him or anything like that?
For Brian.
He must be like 150. Like,
yeah, I've been in contact with him a little bit about working with him. I never had the opportunity before I came over here to work with him, but like, kind of, you know, you meet most people who have been in the business for 15 or 20 years. It seems to be anywhere actually in the world. Everyone knows who he is.
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard so many things about his shows, not bad things or anything like that, but I've had that great experience.
Is it All Star that he runs?
Yeah. And I know how much he likes to sell his merch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. I know he's a very reputable guy to work for. He's definitely someone that I'm trying to get some work with, but yeah, it's just a matter of time and all that kind of thing and the right thing popping up.
Right. How old were you when you decided you were going to travel, like leave England, the UK, to wrestle? When was the first time you branched outside of where you were from?
First time I branched out was actually when I came over here.
Okay. That was 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was time when...
You were 20?
Yes. I'm trying to do my math.
It would have been like April 2017.
It was actually a little bit before that.
Oh, okay.
Well, I came over here in April, but when I was back home, there were two guys that went over to do the same thing and wrestle for WAW, their epic shows, which are their big shows at the weekends that they have. And it was Jesus came over, Ricardo Rodriguez from WWE, and Marcus Burke came over. And they were doing the shows. And I got talking. I made friends with Marcus. I had to take him somewhere.
Poor fellow.
I had to take him somewhere, and we just got chatting. And he kind of, you know, I was a big boy at this age, and he kind of just saw something in me.
Yeah.
He always said that he came into the training school. I was like, because the training school had a bit of a gym in. So I was in the gym, and he came over to me and started asking me about all the regular questions, and he offered me a chance to come over and wrestle for, it was UCW, it was their 10th anniversary shows at the Halifax Forum, and of course I quickly grabbed that up. As soon as Jesus and Marcus, they started talking about kind of places that they could offer me to go, contacts they have for me to, you know, that I could potentially go with and wrestle for. We were actually on our way to a show. We were about to leave for a show, and they spoke about it. So I was like, I'm gonna quickly take you home to my parents, and you can tell them that before we head off to the show. And I took them back to my place, and they had a conversation with my parents. My dad is like a huge WWE fan, and he was doing some jobs in the garden, and I just shouted to him. I was like, I was like, you know, Ricardo Rodriguez from WWE is actually like here in your.
He's in your living room. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did he make him do the entrance when he came?
But yeah, he was. Yeah, bless him. He didn't really know what was going on. But Marcus offered me that opportunity, and you know, I jumped on it straight away.
He
I want to do that.
he lived with you for a while. He stayed with you over there for a while.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I came over in April. I stayed with him for 3 months.
Yeah.
He is also, when he came over to England, he stayed with me for just short of 4 weeks.
Right.
When he was doing tours around.
What were your initial impression of him when he came to the UK?
Well, you know, I hadn't branched out a hell of a lot, and a guy coming over saying he can come and wrestle in a different country, like, of course you're gonna be like, you know, attach yourself.
Why do you think he picked you? I mean, there's tons of people there, right?
I was kind of the biggest person in WWE.
Right. Yeah, we have a lot of little guys here.
Yeah. I was the biggest.
That bodes well for you.
I was the biggest person in WWE, and as I said, kind of my first impression for him was he saw me in the gym, so I was always very serious. I've always like loved the gym, fitness, all that kind of stuff. It was always my thing, and I always just spoke highly of that kind of stuff, and I always wanted to get my passion across for wrestling. And I think he just saw something in me that was like, yeah, I'll try and grab a hold of him and see if I can get the guy an opportunity.
Did you wrestle him over there before he came over?
When he came over to stay with me, we actually had a match at the Epic shows that WAW run. I actually ended up, the first move of the match, the first move was a low blow, because we were doing, I think it was our last man standing match, and the first move was a low blow. So I go to lock up with him, kicks me in the nuts, I fall over, and I ended up popping my shoulder out of place.
Right.
From a low blow. I don't even know how that happens. So I ended up having to put my shoulder back in and then wrestle for 15 minutes. So that wasn't particularly fun. But and then I wrestled him a bunch over here.
When you said that he was offering to bring you over here, what did you think? Did you think that he was serious, or do you think he was? A lot of people talk a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. I was always like,
yeah. Did you think he was serious? Or?
I think I had to, for a young kid, I had to kind of believe that he was serious about it. And I think there's always a thing about when someone offers you an opportunity, it's also now up to them to actually, you know, you can offer someone, come and live with me in a different country, but there's like a bunch of different kind of prices to cover and all that kind of stuff. And so much work to put into it that I kind of had to hold up my end of the deal. And he just said, if you want to, message me and we'll sort it out. And I came back to him like a month later or so and said, you know, I can get it all sorted. And he just said, come on over, and I hopped on a flight and kind of haven't really looked back since, to be honest.
Yeah, you haven't really left
yeah.
for all that long since.
I'm always here.
What made you, like, a lot of people are told to leave, like, and go work other places. A lot of people are even offered the opportunity to go and leave and work other places, but not a lot of people from here actually do. Now, where you're from, a lot of people seem to.
Oh yeah.
What's the difference? Like, why does nobody here like have that drive to do it? And what was it about you that you're like, okay, I have to go if I want to make it somewhere?
I think around here it's a little tricky around here. Like, flying around Canada is not cheap at all. Like, when I first realized how expensive it was to fly around Canada, I was like, oh my god. Some people might not have the drive to travel around, and that's like okay. Yeah. Like, I always say to people, like, it's okay if some people don't want to be WWE superstars, some people don't want to go to Ring of Honor, some people don't want to go to TNA, and they don't have to want to do that. They might just want to stay locally and wrestle locally, and that's perfectly okay to do that. With back home, like, flying around Europe is cheap as anything.
Yeah.
Like, you can fly to Italy or fly to Germany you can get like £30 return tickets, which is about $50. That's amazing. Like, you can go to a different country for $50. Like, a lot of people, even if you had to cover it yourself to go and get an opportunity somewhere, they'll do that.
Yeah.
But like, 30 quid is usually a car drive to 2 hours down the road. Like, promoters they'll be happy to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I just think there's more about, and there's more opportunity to get to those places. And there's not so much barriers in trying to achieve that. So I think that's probably why people tend to do it. You know, people can still do it around here.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to what that person wants to do, and if they want to actually, you know, do it.
Right. What was your initial impressions did you fly to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia? Where did you?
Where did I fly to? I flew to Toronto.
Okay.
It was an interesting airport. I remember hearing so much bad things about the airports over in Toronto, and then I flew from Toronto to Moncton.
Yeah. The two airports we had, the two big ones, are horrible. Like Pearson and whatever the one in Montreal is called.
Yeah, I experienced that one, and then I flew to Moncton, and I was like, "This isn't an airport.
No.
It's a room with an airplane."
Was there much of a culture shock for you, or is it fairly similar?
It's pretty different. Yeah, it's pretty different. The thing I love about over here is how spread out everything is. Like, there's just so much room to do stuff.
We have a big country, nobody lives in it.
I love it. You go back home, like, there's just no room at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just more like the layout of your country is completely different. And like Madison will tell you just how kind of England's a very cramped space, and over here it's just open. You were pretty shocked about how small it was when you were just not even paying attention. See, this is what happens.
She's in the zone. I'll pan to her now.
What are you on?
I was just saying how different England is to over here.
Yes, it is. So
how cramped it is.
So cramped.
Who needs it?
It's hard to see someone as big as Charlie in such like a small environment, and like everything over there is smaller than here.
Yeah.
But I think that has a lot to do with the economy, and you know, their food over there has less sugar, which equals less people out of shape. You know, which equals over. You know,
what are you trying to say?
Well.
That was my next question. Like food, like is the food? Were you eating anything different? I'm going to assume food costs more expensive here than it does over there, or is it similar?
Some type of food does, some doesn't. Your guys' food seems to like have a lot more sugar in it, and all like the additives and all that kind of thing. You guys have a lot more food options than we do. I remember driving down some roads, especially in Moncton, and you've got like 20 food joints. Like, what is going on?
They're all McDonald's.
Like, you don't need 4 McDonald's on one road. It's just not necessary. Whereas back home, like, you have McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and that's it. Yeah. Like, you just don't. It's just, food isn't really a thing.
Yeah.
I find that food's a lot more glorified over here as well. Like, you watch TV and you see like 15 adverts about food. Back home, you see one and you're done. But it was quite a change. But you know, I always liked it. I was always a big fan of like all the places over in like the States and that kind of thing. So I was kind of in my element kind of thing when I came over here.
Have you been to the States at all?
I haven't.
Wait till you see the food down there. If you think here's bad, it's way worse. Yeah. It's so good though.
Yeah. I haven't. I'd love to go and wrestle in the States. Yeah. Don't need to like get into why, just because it's a long story. It's a lot harder for, you know, English people, and it seems like the rest of the world. Yeah. America's not an easy place to get into, and you have
especially now.
Yeah, you have to have the right paperwork and the right documents and all that kind of stuff to be able to do that. As a young person, it's not easy. It drives me nuts because the States is like a 2 or 3 hour drive away.
Yeah.
And like that would definitely to say that I've wrestled in the States would be awesome. But just
so it's different for you to get in there than it is for like us? Oh, really?
When I first came over here and saw that all you guys needed was like a passport, and you can go like back home. You have to have like you have to have either an ESTA, which is a travel document, and you have to fill that out and qualify for it, or you have to have visas.
Right. I knew
and
that.
You have to have a story as to why you're going over and all that kind of stuff. It's just not as easy for us.
They have an even easier time coming here.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I
They don't
hear
even
that.
like, hi. They just let you in.
And I've even we went to Niagara Falls last year, and I've been at the point where I can see the US and I can see people walking around the US. I just can't.
You can't go there.
Can't go there at the moment.
It's crazy. So when you immediately moved in or stayed with Eric at Marcus Burke when you came here, your first set of shows, was it the 10th anniversary shows?
It was that tour, yeah.
That tour. What are your memories of your first matches over here? How many shows were that? 3 shows? Because I think there was 4 shows. 4.
Yeah.
There was Bridgewater, Kentville.
There was the army base. Where was
the army base?
Yeah. I don't know where the army base is.
Escape Retinue? I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but what were your memories?
I was put in on the travel. I was initially because I'm pretty sure I landed, and then the next day was shows, I think. And I was put in the car for the tour with Squishy, Chip, and Chris Hicks.
Okay.
It was a fun ride.
Awesome.
Yeah. The amount of questions I got and the amount of people taking the mick out of my accent was made for an amusing journey. But that was those guys were great and kind of helping me kind of settle into where I was.
Yep.
Especially Hicks. It's funny. And my first match was a 4-way, fatal 4-way. It was me, Chris Hicks, Cody Blade, and Dylan Sharp.
Remy, the 6 man.
No. Like this
that was
was.
Halifax. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my first match was me, Chris Hicks.
You got the results over there, Mike. Look
Yeah. Use the database.
Are you talking about the anniversary show?
No, the first one.
The anniversary show was the last show.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's me, Cody Blade, Chris Hicks, and Dylan Sharp.
Okay.
And that was a 4-way. And the crowds over here are completely different. Just in how they are, how they react, the chants that they do. It's just a very different.
Are they more laid back, or are they more? Because I know from watching, I watch a lot of clips and stuff from the UK, and the crowds seem to be on fire there, all the time.
God, yeah.
And it's really hard to get them here. Is that what you mean by?
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it's just a different experience. I don't know the best way of putting it. Crowds back home, especially nowadays with all the NXT UK and all that kind of stuff, people just they go nuts for shows, and not as if people over here don't enjoy it as much or anything like that. You can tell it comes with, I'm trying to think the best way of putting it. You can definitely tell more people kind of sit and just watch and kind of just appreciate what's
That's
going
changed
on.
over the years too. Back in the day, during the real, I know you weren't here, maybe not seen that much during the real action wrestling days and the Grand Prix days. It was just they were on fire all the time.
Yeah, and that's okay. If a crowd's quiet, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Right. Maybe they're just so involved.
Yeah. So in awe of what's going on.
I was actually filming another tour. There was 2 tours in the Maritimes going on at the same time. I was filming another one, so I didn't meet you until the last night of the tour. And I remember getting there, and somebody had told me you worked Brody Steele the night before, and how good of a match that was. Now he goes, or used to go, and continues to go to England all the time to wrestle. What was your initial impressions of? Did you know who he was ahead of time? And what are your initial impressions of meeting him?
Well, I was at Eric's place, and he was like, "We're gonna go train with Pete," and he was like, "This pretty big dude." I was like, "Okay." I'm thinking is he gonna be bigger than me? There's always a thing with big guys that are you always want to be the biggest.
Right. Are you taller than him now? Because he used to be taller.
He might not say so.
Standing on your tippy toes?
I'm half an inch taller than him. Something like that.
He's dense, thick.
Oh,
That's
God,
what's he's gigantic.
And I first met him, and I was like, fuck. And I knew how professional he was and what a businessman he is, and like this thing I respect about him so much.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, just kept my mouth shut, you know, shook his hand, nodded along kind of thing. When I was finding out I had my first match, I was shitting myself. Because, as I said, you know, someone who's been wrestling for like 20 years and someone who, you know, he knows how to not play the business, but how to like, he knows what he's doing and he knows his worth and he knows how to get what he wants. So I definitely went into that match with like, right, I've got something to prove right now. And we finished the match, and there was meant to be a spot after the match where he goes to pick me up for a power bomb, and I fight out of it, and I give him a back body drop, and he powders out. And he pins me, and he goes, "Forget the last spot," and just walks out. I'm like, oh my god, I just messed up like really bad. But the crowd were really hot for what happened at the finish. That he didn't need the ending. Right. So he was pinning me, and he was he said, "Forget the last spot and just end it." So he walked back, and I roll out of the ring, you know, and I'm headed backstage, and I'm nervous as hell. Because I'm like, oh god, I've messed something up in the match. I remember the first time I hit him, I accidentally clipped him on the chin, and I was like, this is it. And he came back, and he said what a good job I'd done and how impressed he was and that kind of thing. So
that's awesome.
Big sigh of relief. And I've managed to wrestle him a few times, and he's definitely one of my people that I gain the most knowledge from him, because Pete is someone that you just get in there and you listen to what he says and just do what he says, kind of thing. Yeah. Which is how it should be. Yeah. So I'm definitely grateful to have wrestled with Pete.
That's awesome. I remember a clip of Pete during one of those shows that you filmed where he goes to grab a chair from the front row and they were all attached. Yeah. And so he ends up throwing them all. I'm like, why did you throw them all? He's like, well, I had to commit at that point. Like, that's amazing. I think Abyss was in the ring when he was doing that. Abyss was on that tour. Kelly Klein, Bushwhacker Luke.
Yeah.
Was that the first? Well, I guess not. Was that the first time you toured with somebody of those names? Abyss, Bushwhacker Luke. I know you trained with Paige and her family and stuff, but internationally known at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, back home, I'd been on shows with Del Rio.
Okay.
Been on shows with Mr. Kennedy, who's in WWE. I've been on shows with a bunch of...
Okay. So you had already experienced leading to... Okay. You had already worked on shows with Del Rio and stars of that nature, so meeting an international star like Abyss didn't... How was that for the first time? Or touring with one for the first time, I guess.
It's always good, really good experience. You always try, and when you meet people like that who have done stuff like that, you always try and drain as much knowledge out of them, regardless of what stage you're at. As in terms of being backstage with them, I don't act any differently.
Yep.
I take wrestling, it's not my main job, but it's something that I'm striving to make sure it is my main job, and I try and act as professionally as possible.
Yep.
So for me, when I'm at a show, I'm just there to do my job and still talk to the people and all that kind of stuff, but you don't go in and be like, oh my god, it's, that kind of thing. You want people to take you seriously, kind of thing.
Right. Now, the show at the Halifax Civic Center had almost 1,300 people that night for the 10th anniversary show. Would have been the largest crowd you worked in front of at that point? What are your thoughts on that?
It was crazy. It was a very, very good, strong first impression. And it was a wild crowd as well.
Yeah.
I actually had... one of my buddies from back home, I told him I was going over to Canada, and he always wanted to go to Canada, so he actually ended up coming over with me. He ended up staying a week in Toronto and came over to Halifax for a week for the show. So it was very nice knowing that I had one of my friends in the audience to witness something like that for me. Because of course, like my parents are none of those. Like my parents are my biggest fans in the world.
Right.
And knowing they weren't in the crowd, just to have someone in the crowd that I know is like, it was very kind of comforting. And like the reaction that I got from the crowd was really nice. And everyone kind of welcomed me very well. So that was always nice too.
You wrestled a 6-way or something?
Yeah,
that night?
6-way. It was in the pre-show.
The VIP portion, yeah.
Me, Andre, Remy, Cody, Covey, and
One of the Quebec guys.
Yeah.
Michelle. Yeah, Michelle.
He may or not been under him. Was he injured?
No.
No.
All right.
And Michelle. And I kind of like, you know, they knew an English guy was kind of coming over, and like when they were like planning the match, everyone just looked at me. So I'm like, right, I'll kind of took charge on that one, and I was really happy with that match. It was for having 6 people in the match. It isn't always easy to plan something like that,
a lot of
and
people.
making sure it goes smooth as well. And we got some nice bits in there, so it was a match I was definitely happy with.
You started. When did you start working for IHW? And did you get that through knowing Marcus Burke?
Yeah,
Or did
he
you
was
do that
when
yourself?
he set me up with that. When was
Because
that?
at that point, everyone
That was around the time that Chip and James Liberty were wrestling for the IHW TV Championship.
that summer, maybe?
I don't know if they'd done that a few times.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember what was going on. It wasn't too far off when I came that I
Okay.
actually wrestled for them. And I was put on the pre-show with Al Fuego. And then they put me, I was very happy that they put me straight in the title picture for the TV title.
Nice.
Because they were doing, it was a setup for the 4-way flag match at Riverview.
Right.
Which was me, Chip, James Liberty, and Remy. So like just to come in straight away and they put me right in that position, I was very like okay, they're taking me seriously kind of thing. They're putting me in a good position right off the bat, which I was really happy with.
There was 2 other promotions in New Brunswick, NWE and Mainstream Wrestling New Brunswick. Did you work for those guys yet at that point in time? Or was
Not at that point in time.
Not at that point in time. How did you go about getting booked with them?
MSW. It's funny you ask that because I really can't remember. Is that it for you? Please tell me, because I can't remember. You're just nodding your head, you're not saying anything. I honestly cannot remember how I caught up with those guys. It's basically through word of mouth that I found out who the promoters are. And I just messaged them and kind of it just went from there really. I wish I could remember where they came from, but like literally just over my head.
What was it like? IHW was run by somebody else when you originally started working for them, Kevin Tyler.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on working for IHW at that point? How was it like compared to how it is run now?
I'm very much a person that I don't get involved in drama, and unless it affects me, I don't need to know about it. That's just my take on it. There wasn't any issues for me at all. I never I'm coming from a different country. I'm just coming it's another company under my belt in a different country, and why would I not do that?
Right.
I always got on really well with Kevin. I don't have any, there was never ever any issues there. He always treated me well, and I always, had a good time with him.
Compared to how like the company is run now, is it any different? Like promoting wise and booking wise and things like that.
I definitely think having the owners that IHW has now was definitely a good thing, and that's no disrespect to Kevin whatsoever. I think it was a very good thing for IHW, having strong minds that they have now,
Right.
especially Peter Smith. I think it's definitely set up for a stronger future, and just having that kind of, it's got the eyes on the company that it needs, making sure that it's doing the right things, that, you know, it's given its best shot to be successful in the future.
When was the first time you worked for VCW? It was the Doolittle show in the spring of 2018, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You worked Jason Rumble?
I did watch Jason.
Okay,
Rumble,
I remember. Okay, so I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out the time,
right.
right? So you were you wrestled for UCW and IHW throughout the summer of 2017.
Yep.
They brought in some talent, like they had Victoria here from Madison. Jack Swagger came in a couple of times. Do you have any like special memories or matches that stand out leading up until like the fall of 2017?
To be honest, there's not necessarily specific match. As I said, the one I spoke about with Brody.
Yeah. You said you worked him a couple of times.
Yeah,
I know you worked him.
I worked him a lot more later on.
Okay.
Which we can get to.
Yeah.
That stuck in my head because of I knew his reputation.
Right.
And I knew what he'd done. So it was definitely it was definitely an opportunity to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I definitely went into that match with like you've got to step up right now. For me, just the whole memory, it was just touring around a different country. Like, I've been very lucky to see a lot of Canada and a lot more than most people have who live here.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm driving around on the road to shows with people that I don't know, in a country that I don't know, just that memory in general is just, you know, it's something you kind of hold on to, especially that, like, you know, you're in those positions and you think like, okay, like I'm taking a step to kind of get to that end goal of where I want to be, and yeah, just being in a different ring with different people in different places, just you can't really beat that.
You mentioned seeing more of Canada than most people. Like you've seen way more of it than I have. I haven't been outside of Atlantic Canada. Okay. In Canada, I've been all over the United States, but I've never been other than airports. Never been to Calgary once for a day for a wedding. Other than that, never saw. I haven't seen anything in the country, but been all over the United States. Like it's strange how it's strange how that works.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I remember a match of yours. I was selling my house, so I missed a lot of shows during that summer. Mm-hmm. That's why I was just asking like the memories because I wasn't there for a lot of it. The first time I saw you wrestle was that anniversary show in that six-way, and then the next time I actually reffed your match with JP. Now, for me, seeing some filming people, you can generally tell like, okay, these guys are good, but then once you're in there reffing with these guys, you can see so much better. I was like so impressed like with how good you were, and like that. I thought that match was really decent. You had known at that point you were getting a WWE tryout. That would have been like November, October 2017, because I remember people mentioning it.
Your tryout was in November.
Oh, was your tryout in November?
When was the Riverview show?
I don't remember.
The JP show was November 25th.
November 25th.
When was the Riverview show? Where I had the flag match.
Good, how are you?
You asked about memories I had from tour. I remember one memory that was actually a really big deal, and it's something that I still hold on to. When we were at the army base, when I had that match, I came outside after the show, and
which match?
After I wrestled Cody, Dylan, and Chris in that four-way. One of the guys who was in the army, he came up to me and like told me he came up to me and said how much he enjoyed the match, and how much he enjoyed watching me wrestle, and he had this badge that apparently everyone gets to kind of give away to someone And apparently when you go into a bar with your buddies in the army, you put down this badge, and the last one to put it on the table buys a round of drinks. And it's kind of like a medallion. It's like a metal piece of metal with like the army logos and all that kind of thing on it. And he gave it to me because he thought that I was very entertaining, and he enjoyed watching me wrestle so much. And they only get one to give away to people, and that was something that always just stuck with me, because those kind of things mean a lot to those kind of people.
Yeah.
And for me just to come over and for someone to do that for me, always something that kind of stuck in my head.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was talking about that match with JP that was in November of that year, and I remember thinking, because I had only met you once before that, and I had heard you were getting a WWE tryout, and you always like wondered why. I remember reffing that match, and they're like, "Oh, that's why."
Yeah.
And so you had known before that match.
Yeah.
You were getting your WWE tryout.
I found out around May or June.
Okay.
That kind of time period.
What were your thoughts when you heard? Like you said, your dad was a huge WWE fan.
Yeah.
Clearly, you said you were a huge John Cena fan.
Yeah.
Now you're going to go down to Orlando to the PC.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you heard that out?
I was sitting. This was when I lived with Eric. I was sitting on his couch, and he just said, he was like, "What's your email address? And what's your height? And what's your weight? And all that kind of thing." And I told him, I was like, "Why are you doing that?" He was like, "I'm just sending some stuff to an NXT guy." So okay. I went to bed, and he came in my room in the morning, and he was like, "Dude, you're in." And I'm like, I'm half asleep. I'm like, "What you on about?" He just waking me up. He's like, "Yeah, you've got an NXT tryout," and like, yeah, it was one of the proudest moments of my career. I didn't quite believe him. He's known for playing a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
But when I knew it was
when you were on the plane.
Yeah, when I knew it was the real deal, I FaceTimed my parents and told them, and they just broke down. It's something I've always told people since I was a little kid. What are you going to do in the future? And I always say I'm going to be in the WWE. Yep. And they laugh and they go like, "No, seriously, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to be in the WWE." And I've always had people tell me I'm not going to do it and all that kind of stuff. And I always told them I'll prove them wrong, and you'll see me on TV in a few years. So for me, like, I don't mean this in an arrogant way at all. I wasn't surprised I got one, because I always knew in my heart that I would get there. Right. But of course,
have to believe in yourself.
Oh, of course, if you don't believe in yourself, there's no point. Yeah. But of course, when it actually, like, your opportunity to do that, obviously, like, it's still like, oh my God, is this actually happening, kind of thing. And then, we knew about it, and my tryout was actually in England. I didn't go over to Orlando.
Oh, okay.
It was actually at one of the arenas at Manchester Arena.
Okay.
Which, we can talk about the tryout.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first found out, it was a memory that will live with me forever. Because, as I say, as a little kid, when you dream of that kind of stuff, and when it actually comes, that opportunity comes, it's like nothing else.
Who was running the tryout over in England? I know Robbie Brookside works in Orlando. He's a big British wrestler.
The main trainees that were teaching us were William Regal, Robbie Brookside, and Johnny Singh.
Oh, so Brookside was there.
Yeah, okay. Brookside was there. Yeah.
So did you know who he was?
Yeah. It's funny because
like him and Regal and Singh. Huge British names, right?
Robbie Brookside is actually, he came to WAW once when I was 15, and he actually ran a training seminar.
Okay.
And I got in the ring and I'd done some stuff, and he was really, he was really impressed with me. And I got out and he looked at me and he was like, what does it feel like knowing that you have a very bright future? And then when he got signed to NXT, I was like, oh my God, like this guy who said that is now an NXT coach. Like, it was, you know, those kind of things make you believe in yourself just a little bit more. So it's very cool the amount of knowledge you get off those people are just insane.
What was the tryout like? I interviewed Tyson Dukes a few years ago, and he talked about how tough it was, and how he had like a torn hamstring or torn something, and he was still the only one standing like at the end of the tryout, and Regal went up to him and was like, "You really love doing this, don't you?" And he's like, "It's my life, right?"
Yeah.
So how hard was it?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Leading up to it, like, there was a lot of mental preparation that went in it for me, because I wanted, I wanted to, you know, as a kid you grow up watching these people, and they kind of, you know, as a young person they become your idols. That's who you want to become, you know. I wanted to go in there to focus on my tryout and not to be like oh my god, I'm in, you know, I'm backstage at WWE and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of mental preparation that I took before my tryout, with like professionals and all that kind of thing, like getting me in that correct mind frame. Otherwise, like, my nerves would have been through the roof. I remember I got there, I went to the hotel, and the first day is promos, and they give you like health checks. Obviously the thing people were most nervous for is the promos. They take you to this hotel. John Laurinaitis is there, Regal's there, Brookside's there, just Mark Carrano's there, all the main people.
Right.
And you go into a room for your health checks, and one by one they pull you off to do promos. And I go into the room, and it was just a small hotel room.
Yep.
And you walk into the hotel room, and as I say, there's Regal there, Brookside, Johnny Sane.
It's going to be nervous just standing in front of him.
The head of talent recruitment, and just like, you're like, what am I doing in this room? And all these people, all these professionals are watching you. And you cut a promo for, I think it was a minute, the most nerve-wracking minute of my life. But they're like, they obviously understand the pressure, and they understand, like, you know, imagine walking into a room and cutting a promo for a minute. They realize that, you know, how intense it is for people. So we do that, we do the health checks, and then the next day, because they basically put your hotel like pretty far from the arena purposely. So you have to make sure you're there on time, and you go backstage. It was at the Manchester Arena.
Okay.
You go around the back of the arena, through backstage, and they put you in a dressing room, and they call you out, and you basically come through the corner curtain out into the arena. The ring's set up, the stage is set up, but like, you don't have any time to absorb all of that stuff. You've just got to go down and make sure you do your thing. And they basically, the coaches come down and they just put you through drills after drills after drills.
A lot of cardio.
A lot of cardio, lots of rolls, lots of bumping, like just all of that kind of stuff. You finish that up, you go back to your hotel, you then come back for Raw. They basically use you for the shows. A couple of people were lucky enough to actually be on the show, which is really good for them. I know I was kind of told from the start that like my chances of that wouldn't be very good
because you're bigger than everybody.
I wouldn't make them look particularly good. And then basically the same thing the second day, to be honest. And yeah, running up like arena steps and carrying people and bumping, running the ropes, rolls, all that kind of stuff. It was exhausting, along with the fact that, you know, you're doing it where you are, and it makes for a pretty intense moment.
But how many other people or students or trainees were there?
There's probably like 15 of us.
Was there anybody there that got signed out of?
Bunch of the guys, quite a few guys are now on NXT UK.
Okay.
But a bunch of those guys had wrestled for companies like ICW in Scotland are like the big promotions.
ones,
So they were already where they needed to be.
Right.
So a bunch of them on the UK brand right now. Other than that, like no one in particular that I can think of.
Did you get any feedback from?
They're quite limited on feedback.
Yeah.
I know that they were kind of happy with what I'd done. It's never a case of first tryout.
Get signed.
There you go.
At like 20.
Yeah. they want to see where you go from there. They want to see how you improve, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't like looking back on it. I wasn't anywhere near ready.
Yeah. And to be fair, they've had a lot of problems signing a lot of people so young. Like the Hardy Boys had some trouble. Rene Dupree was signed at like 18.
Yeah,
like,
it's not necessarily a good thing to get signed at so young.
Yeah.
But like, I'm so grateful for it because I now know what it's like going into it, and I now know what I can prep myself for.
Yeah.
For then when the next tryout comes,
Yeah, and you're on the radar now, right? They know you
absolutely.
exist.
That's like the biggest thing, like they know who you are, and they know that you're about, and they know that you're wrestling, so they can, just watch and keep an eye out, really.
When you Google you, one of the first things that comes up is your tryout on WWE.com.
Okay, yeah.
Your dad must have been
yeah.
thrilled to see that.
When I saw that, it was a pretty I marked out a little bit for that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I definitely kept hold of that. Just to kind of see me on the front stage. It was it was something that I was very proud of it.
Do you have any information on any tryouts that are coming up for you, or
nothing?
Not yet?
Nothing with WWE yet.
Okay.
And I say yet.
I think they have another one.
Just
next
yeah. I know what I need to do for myself before I go for another one.
Yep.
I very much learned, like when I was younger, I very much learned that all I wanted to do was I just watched straight to WWE. That's all I wanted to do. But as I've grown up and as I have experienced traveling, I've learned just to loosen up a little bit, just enjoy what you're doing. Like, I still have so much experience to go out and get.
Yeah.
Physically, I need to do so much more. And the next one I want to go in there and be like,
you're gonna crush it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not a matter of if, but when I'm ready.
You were when you were back home. Were you still following the maritime wrestling scene? Because you were back home in November. 2017.
I went. It was April. The first time I came over was April.
Yeah.
I went back in June or July.
Yeah.
I was home for a few months. Then Eric had his wedding. I came back for that.
Yeah.
And then I ended up meeting Madison, and I came back November till January.
Okay.
And then I came back in April.
Okay, so you were here for some of November 2000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was when Marcus Burke announced that he wasn't going to be wrestling for IHW anymore. He was just going to be wrestling for UCW. What are your memories when you thought that, and did you think that might affect you going back and forth at that point?
Yeah, I didn't really know he was leaving. From what I can remember, I didn't know he was leaving IHW.
Okay.
I didn't really know why. As I said, it wasn't really any of my business, so I didn't really pay too much attention about it. I know now there was drama going on between certain people and that kind of thing. But like in terms of affecting me, like I don't think I really ever thought about it that way.
Yeah.
So like at the time, I was pretty kind of just like, okay, he's just making that decision, whatever he needs to do kind of thing. I didn't really think too much into it.
Yeah. So you wrestled in Spryfield in January, I believe, of 2018. You wrestled Marcus Burke there.
Yeah.
And that was one of your last matches, or your last match before you went back home?
That was my last match before I went back home, yeah.
Do you have any memories of that match? Because he cut a promo after, I believe, and put you over.
Yeah, it was a really good match. It was one I enjoyed very much.
He cut that promo a couple of times.
Yeah. I was very...
You're always leaving, but you always come back.
I was very excited for it. Me and him were really close. So it's always fun when you wrestle with your buddies. And yeah, it was a very fun match having it was a nice one to kind of end that trip on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely a good time.
So you leave, and when do you come back? Because you were back for the 11th anniversary tour.
Yeah, I came back.
That was April of 2018.
Yeah, I came back April 2018.
You came back April 2018. Yeah. So while you were away, they announced that UK stars Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate were coming over to work for UCW. Tyler Bate is still the WWE UK champion. That was the first time over here that a contracted WWE champion had ever appeared on a independent show. Had you ever had any dealings with either of them before? Like, had you met them on indie shows or done any shows with them before they came over here?
I'd met them a couple times. I'd met them at NSPW. I met Pete at NSPW.
Okay. So over here, well,
Quebec,
I
met him over in Quebec, and we got on pretty well because two English people in a different country, you're naturally gonna. And I also had my tryout coming on as well, so like we had lots to kind of talk about, and then they were both at my tryout as well.
Okay.
And we recognized each other and had a chat and all that kind of stuff. So I already know of them.
Okay.
So like, yeah, and I knew they came from the kind of the same background that that I was doing over there. So when they came over, I thought it was great that they were doing it. Definitely a good thing for the Maritimes. So yeah, just when they were there, it was just catching up. It wasn't. It was a very good thing for them to come over.
I don't remember who you wrestled on the first night of the tour, but the second night you wrestled Brody Steele, and the third night you wrestled Covey, I think.
Yeah.
Who was
I
the first night?
wrestled Sin Bodhi, yeah.
Sin Bodhi the first night?
Yeah.
What are your memories of? Was it one of the death matches or was it a regular?
No, just a regular match. Thank God. I'd always wanted to. I got really close with Sin. He gave me a lot of advice on my tryout.
Okay.
And I was excited for that because I believe that he asked to. No, he didn't. I asked Marcus if I could wrestle him on that show.
Yeah.
Because again, someone who's done so much.
He used to wrestle here years ago.
Yeah, already.
Yeah, he wrestled as Original Sin back in like 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
2002.
Okay.
Here, yeah.
And such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I got to wrestle him, and just one thing that was impressive straight away was how he just takes command of what he's doing. Like, he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't allow you to kind of stray away from what is meant to be done, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he wants you somewhere, you're going to go regardless of what's going on. So yeah, just again to be in the ring with someone who's on that top level was just it was a great learning experience.
And the next night you were supposed to wrestle JP.
Yeah.
I don't know why JP wasn't there, but you ended up wrestling Brody Steele, who came in. Did Pete work the first night?
No, because
he
worked that night.
Yeah, he only came in for that one show.
Yeah.
What are your memories of being able to work Brody Steele one more time?
Yeah, I was. Again,
that was the first time I got to see you guys wrestle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same as the first time. It was just going in there, proving that I needed, because it had been a little bit of a gap since we previously wrestled.
Yeah.
So I needed to go in there and prove like how much I've, stepped up. I very much found that I got to a level, and I needed kind of people like Pete and Sin and that kind of stuff to take me to that kind of next point. So yeah, it was. I always have fun wrestling Pete. It was especially on it was a big show to be able to wrestle him on a big show like that was definitely something I was very happy about.
I think that was the first time UCW ran in Moncton. Was that tour? Were you still going back and forth between IHW and UCW when you came back, or were you just UCW?
was the first tour they ran by themselves. I believe there wasn't too much spoken about it.
Yeah.
Well, there was actually. When I say that, I'm trying to get my time frames.
Yeah.
I originally decided to stay with UCW.
Were you asked to not?
IHW was obviously under different kind of leadership with Kevin.
Yeah.
And I knew there'd been like a couple of times I've been inquiring about bookings of IHW, and they weren't, it wasn't, there was like issues with it, and he wasn't like overly keen and all that kind of thing.
Well, who wants to book this British guy? Like, why would you do that?
So like I stayed with UCW for a bit. I knew there was a lot going on and all that kind of stuff, and for the initial point, I knew there was a choice to be made.
Yeah.
But for that time period, I was with UCW.
Okay. When were you approached to not work for IHW anymore? Or were you approached to not work IHW anymore? Or did you just choose not to work for IHW anymore?
It was spoken about a bit back over in England. But
Before you came back?
Yeah, I was brought down to a choice like everyone else was. Obviously, me and Eric are really close.
Yeah.
Very, very close. So I think there was always that, there was always that thought that I'd be with UCW. The reason why I wanted to stay with UCW is because they were bringing in like good names, they were bringing out big names. But I also always thought to myself, like, it wasn't me who was wrestling those big names.
Yeah.
And then I got told about a storyline idea for IHW, which was Pete and Mike and me and Titus. And like instantly I jumped on that. Like I was like, these guys are the main events for one of the biggest company or the biggest company around here.
And that was when Pete and Titus and those guys officially took over from Kevin.
IHW was under new leadership, very good, very solid leadership, which was like, okay, that like made me look at them kind of thing. And then I got told about the storyline idea when Mike and Titus were finishing up their, or at the time were finishing up their feud. And then I came in, and me and Titus done the spot where we hung Mike by the chain, and all that kind of thing. And I thought to myself, like, I need to, for my own personal progression, I need to be in the ring with these guys, because they're main eventing these shows. They're the main event of IHW. They're the biggest names in IHW. And not only do I want to prove to them, but I want to prove to myself that I know that I can go in there and do my job and, hang with them. So for my own kind of, I tried my best to keep both. I tried my best to make sure I could do both IHW and UCW at the same time. I'm not even from here.
Right.
And I'm just, I'm like, I'm traveling from a different country each time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even based here. Like, I'm just coming from somewhere else. I want to get out. It's good for me to be able to wrestle for as many places as I can.
100%.
Like, for just exposure and all that kind of stuff.
Make it worth your time while you're here, right?
Yeah.
You don't just
It's not cheap to come over to a different country.
You need to get the experience while you're here.
And I have those dates available, so like I just want to fill them up.
Right.
But I was still given that choice.
Yeah.
But for me, and it's taken me a long time in my life to be able to make decisions for me that benefit me. So for my own personal progression, like I wanna be in the main events. I want to draw crowds. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So why would I turn down an opportunity like that?
Right.
Just, it was just something that worked for me.
You were dating Madison Miles at that point, and that was her last. If you haven't watched her interview, go watch her interview. She talks about this, but that was her last tour with UCW.
Yeah.
Did that have anything to do with you leaving as well?
No, it didn't.
No?
No. as much as she might like think. So.
No, it was not my fault, but there was so much going on at the time,
Yeah,
like drama.
No, I didn't mean your fault. I meant,
No.
did that factor in his decision to
I
not
would, I
work
would
for
never
them?
expect him, sorry to interrupt, but I would never
Oh,
expect
yeah.
him to let his bookings affect the fact that I wasn't working with someone. But obviously, when your significant other is being treated like shit by someone,
Yeah.
you have both of us that are, we're both getting it on each end.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Yeah, it was a very rough time.
Yeah.
And I don't like. I'm very much a person like, I don't like making people angry, upset, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want the best. I just want to do my best. I want to get the most out of what I do, and I want to work for as many people as I can work for. And believe me, I tried being able to do both. And I know Maddie made up her own decision, and that was her own decision, and I made my own decision. But my decision was purely based on the fact that I need to be wrestling the best people. I need to be wrestling where the expectation is there for me. People expect something on me, because obviously in the main event people do expect stuff from you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put myself in a place where I had to be in a spot where I had to deliver, because that's it's just how you improve.
So when did you decide, or was it decided for you, that you weren't going to come back to UCW, you were just IHW now?
Yeah, I said that I was taking the opportunity, and it was decided for me.
Yeah, so you were told if you're working for them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Your thoughts, you wrestled for IHW, you had a big tag match with, you just mentioned it was you and Titus against Mike and Pete.
Yep.
Is that the first time, had you worked for Red Rock Wrestling yet?
I hadn't. No.
You hadn't? So that was the first time you wrestled Mike?
Yes, first time I wrestled Mike. What time? Yeah, it was the first time I wrestled Mike.
Thoughts on Mike in general, and the thoughts on that match? Had you met him before?
Yeah, I'd met him before.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, we ran the angle at Riverview, where I came in.
That's
at
what
the
I
end.
meant. Had you met him before IHW, or was that the first time?
I think
he
I
wasn't
may have met him before.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the first time that we actually kind of properly, we were like in the same place kind of thing. Yeah. I get on really well with Mike. The guy's a great worker, like one of the best around, if not the best worker around here. Mm-hmm. Again, just someone who's great to know, like he's been around the world, and you can't argue with that stuff. So
You can try, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. He's someone that again has got double the experience I do, so like usually I'm in the position where I'm leading people and I'm taking people through matches, but I needed to be in that place where it's very much just you do this and make sure you do it good kind of thing. But yeah, Mike along with Pete, they're great people to know, because they can get you very far, and they definitely help you improve. That's 100% for certain.
What are your thoughts? You said you were excited to work that tag match with those guys. What were your thoughts on how that match played out?
Really well. I loved the match. Everyone was happy. Everyone, as I said, it was a big opportunity for me to prove what I needed to do, and the guys were very happy with how I delivered that. And I can't ask for more than that. So. Yeah, I couldn't have pictured it to have gone better.
Was that the night that Madison turned heel?
Yes.
Yes. You thought she did something to you? Is that right? Or
no,
she hit Mike with a chair. Or something?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I went basically. Pete and Mike went over.
Yep.
Me and Titus went to the back, and then we came back around and done the attack.
You guys were heel? Or
me and Titus were heel.
Yeah, okay.
And then I pulled a chair from out under the ring.
Right.
I went to swing, and then Maddie came in and dove in front of me.
Okay.
And then Titus was trying to get me to hit her. I get in trouble for that. And then she took the chair from me and spun around and hit Mike on the back.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, she's been beloved here forever. Your thoughts on how that played
I
out?
thought it was a perfect time. I know they wanted to bring our relationship a little bit to wrestling.
How do you feel about that?
I know she was hesitant. I was hesitant as well. It's not something that we wanted just to, not to be private with it, but just to kind of keep it down low. Just purely because we didn't want a bunch of people kind of getting involved and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we knew it was going to be done right, and we knew that we're around the right people to be able to do that and not take advantage of it.
Right.
So we were more than happy to do it. And yeah, it for where we were at, it just made sense. You know, she was loved so much, and it was just a perfect time. I know. She went backstage and she said the kids were crying and all that kind of stuff, and it got to her. I was like, perfect. That's doing your job.
You also worked earlier that year for VCW for Devin Chittick for the first time.
Yep.
You wrestled Jason Rumble at Doolittle's, who's as weird as it is. That bar is like pretty famous throughout the maritime wrestling scene. He's been running that since 2003.
Yep.
So, what were your thoughts on Devin, Doolittle's, and wrestling Jason Rumble that night?
Well, Devin, I've never had one single issue with Devin. People have told me stories. People have said a lot of things. I'm very much a person that I'll make my own judgment on someone. I don't need a bunch of people. I don't need people telling me what's going on in his life, because it's not any of my business. He approached me for bookings. He gave me what I asked for. He gave my rate that I asked for. I went there. He treated me great. It was a great match. He paid me, said we'll do it again, and I left. I can't ask for much more from a booking, and it was 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
As I say, I'm not going to judge people on what they tell me.
Yeah.
I'll just make my own judgment of someone, and I've never had one single issue with him, and I hopefully work for him again. And I've had various contacts and opportunities that have come up from that.
Awesome.
So I'm not going to not take an opportunity because of what people might have an issue with. And it was a load of fun working with Jason Rumble. I didn't know of him until I had that. I know how much experience he had, and he was very happy with it as well. And he, when we came back from the match, he was just like a kid at Christmas. He was excited as anything.
Yeah.
And he was very complimentary of my work. So I can't ask for much more.
I interviewed him shortly after that, and I asked him who he thought the best wrestler in the Maritimes was, and he said you.
Oh,
he said he knew you weren't from here, but
Yeah.
From him wrestling people over here, he said that you were the best that he ever wrestled.
Oh,
and he's been coming up here for years.
I
and working with
appreciate
a lot
that.
of
I
people.
appreciate that.
Had you worked a bar like that before?
No.
What are your thoughts on
That was odd. Yeah, I've never worked
It's
at
a
bar
very common
before.
thing here.
Yeah, not so much back home. It was, yeah.
It started out in Western Canada, out in Winnipeg. They ran bars out there.
Yeah.
And then Devin started doing it. Devin was like the first guy to really do it here, at least on a consistent basis like that. We used to run 3 bars a week for years.
Yeah. It was it was an experience.
Yeah.
Especially when I stood in the ring and the roof was there.
Well, had you ever wrestled in a place where you could touch the roof with your head?
Actually, I wrestled in because they do holiday camp back home. And I wrestled in a ring that a disco ball was hanging just from that point.
That's hilarious. They ran shows in a bar in Sackville where there was a television on one side of the ring and a ceiling fan in the other.
Oh, nice.
You could literally pull the thing and change the channel. The guy used to do it all the time.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It's definitely a place that you have to adapt to where you are.
Yeah, because there are 2 sides.
Yeah, especially when you're outside of the ring. It was weird not being able to I couldn't lift them up for a suplex because I get them there and it just hit the roof.
So many people went through that ceiling.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think I like when things like that happen because it forces me to adapt to it and it forces me to change up what I do. It's you go into the match and these moves they're not available to you, so it forces you to kind of think outside the box a bit. But I absolutely loved that match with Jason. It was good fun.
You can't necessarily grab a headlock anywhere either. You gotta be facing the crowd.
Yeah.
The wall or the music guy,
I know, right?
don't care.
I know, right? It's crazy.
You also wrestled Teddy Hart.
Yeah.
You probably had heard of Teddy Hart already.
Of course.
What were your thoughts when you heard you were going to wrestle him? Because he was scheduled to wrestle someone else.
Yeah.
The person didn't show up, so you got the booking.
I think that was a different show.
Was it?
I think so.
Okay. Oh, you're right. It was a different show.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
were scheduled to wrestle. I advertised that match. It was the next time. He was, okay.
I was very excited for it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about. Again, Teddy. Like personally, I get on really well with him. His stories, I don't need to know about them. I'm not going to judge him based on what I'm told. He always treated me really well. Again, it's another one of those places where he takes control. I listen to what he wants, and I do my best to deliver that. I had a great match with him. He wrestles a lot differently to what I do, but the crowd were eating it up, and you realize in those kind of crowds that like they're not really there to see wrestling.
So they're for the
They're just there for the
entertainment
entertainment.
that night, right?
And it was he was definitely someone from what he'd done to. It was important to me to get his kind of nod saying, you know what you're doing kind of thing. And I went backstage, and the first thing he said to me was like, dude, you can work and you can do it very well. And those kind of things, they mean a lot. And there's a good chance that a very good potential booking is going to come out of that for me over in Calgary.
The Hart family wrestling.
Yeah. So I was very happy to have got that, and that's what I'm saying. Like regardless of where, if it's in a bar or anywhere, there's still an opportunity that can come out of that. So like you shouldn't shy away from those kind of things if you need that exposure.
Do you remember after your match with Jason Rumble at the bar, the picture, the old lady laying on the floor with you guys?
Yeah.
What were you thinking when that was going on?
I don't know, just some drunk woman who wants a photo. So I was like, I went into that match with the, as I said, the view that I'm sure there aren't really any wrestling fans here. They just want to have a laugh.
Yeah.
So like doing things like taking Jason outside, I was pouring beer on him.
Yeah.
I got a couple of the crowd members to chop him and all that kind of stuff. Like people were buzzing from it. And I just got out of the ring. Because Jason went over in that match, but he kind of rolled out of the ring, and then a woman came down to lie with him, and I got out, and I was like, yeah, why not? I'll lie there as well. So Jason's passed out in the middle, and I'm smiling, and she's drunk, and it was a good time.
Doolittles.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before how close you and Marcus Burke were. You're not so close anymore?
Yeah.
You don't really talk all that much?
Yeah, not particularly, just...
What happened there?
Just the whole ECW, IHW thing.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail for it. Just because I try not live in the stuff that's happened.
Yeah. Would you be open to like talking to him?
Yeah. It's a tricky one. It's like I'll never take away from him that he brought me over here.
Yep.
He got me my tryout. If he didn't bring me over here, I wouldn't have met Madison.
Right.
I'll never take that away from him because that's what happened.
Yep.
I had to make a decision. I made that decision. Obviously, it didn't work it wasn't the decision that it was wanted. But I'm not going to dwell on what happened. Like, stuff happens, it's unfortunate, but you just got to move on from it.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. I'm in a very good place. I'm doing as well as I've ever done.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be bitter about it or anything like that. It happened. I'm doing good now, and I'm just moving on and focusing on, I've got so much out there, and so many people. I've got more things to worry about than kind of those things that happened in the past.
Okay. We got some fan questions here.
Yeah, go for it.
From Reginald Birch. Do you miss him?
Of course I do. How can I not miss your face?
I know how.
From Shelley Brown. She says, "Hi, friends." Do you know Shelley?
And yeah,
Yeah, okay. I was.
yeah. One of my
Do you
favorite
know
people.
Shelley?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know Shelley right now.
Yeah,
You
get
know.
out. Just wondering, what's Charlie's favorite thing about the Maritimes?
Favorite thing about the Maritimes? No, it's not you, Mike. Favorite thing?
Miles, not Hughes.
Yeah. Favorite thing about the Maritimes? How
I'm surprised Madison didn't say.
I love how close everyone is here.
Yeah.
I know that there's a divide in it and all that stuff, but
That's only really with certain people,
yeah, just the amount of people, like, it's a very common thing over here for the amount of wrestlers like at IHW,
Yeah.
like, that say that are so close and people are just so nice to each other. The amount of people that say, like, I love you to each other and all that kind of
Yeah.
thing when they're friends, like, it's very benign for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a thing you particularly see back home. Because
You think it's because there's less of them?
I think so,
Yeah.
and they've like there's so much traveling and history between everyone.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just so close as a family, and people are just so nice to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like back home, like there's so many promotions about, and there's so many people. You don't really wrestle on the same shows
Yeah.
like with people that often. It's quite rare. It was a very weird thing to come into, but it's definitely one of my favorite things. That and how big it is. I'm not so cramped.
Kirk Ube, when will you try CrossFit?
Never.
William Randy Harris asks, Charlie, do you see yourself working for WWE Wrestling someday in the future?
Of course, like I think personally that's something I've always strived for, and I have no doubt that in a few years I'll be on that TV.
And also, who's one of the WWE wrestlers that you would love to wrestle if you had the chance?
Just for the record, before we get into this, I was a huge John Cena mark, and I use the word was. I've kind of grown up a bit now, so the amount of times I get I'd love to work Pete Dunne.
Yep.
The guy's one of the best out there at the minute. I'd love to wrestle the big names. Like, of course, I love a match against Cena. It'd be a great thing.
That means you're getting paid.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'd also love, be great to wrestle Seth Rollins as well.
Okay.
As a workhorse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Matthew LeBlanc, dream match other than John Cena.
What's that? A match other than John Cena.
You just said that, so
Yeah.
that's why. I just thought that was funny that was the next question. Lincoln Steen. What's his mother's favorite match of his to watch?
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be me versus Lincoln Steen. That was a great match.
Where did you wrestle him?
We wrestled in, I believe it was Cape Brown.
Okay.
Uh,
For ECPW.
yeah.
Or was it ACWA?
No, it's
ECW?
It's
Okay.
funny because like that match was about 5 minutes and
Yeah.
we done nothing.
I saw that match.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that match where we done nothing? And
That's not you, that's him.
yeah, yeah, that's
doesn't
how he
do
wrestles.
anything.
I love it though. I love it.
Headlock.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
He gets that reaction, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah. And actually, I had that match and it went up the next day. And my mum messaged me and she was like, "Who's the curly head guy?" And I was like,
Richard Simmons.
"Who you on about?" And I was like, "Okay, that's Lincoln Steen." And she was like, "I love that match." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Of all matches you pick, that one." Like we
That's
done
hilarious.
absolutely. I think we done like a choke slam, and that was about it.
Yeah. Ryan Durnford, also known as Damien Spades. Why is he so good at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yeah, he sucked at that. We played that.
I love how most of these are from the West.
He came down for the birthday bash we just had the weekend, and the girls were downstairs, so we were like, okay, we're gonna stay away. So we just put some Mario Kart on, and I whooped his ass at that.
It's funny. We used to, when he trained at with Wild Man Gary Williams at the school in Spryfield, which is actually across the street from where the school is now. Funny
Yeah.
how that- anyway, we had Super Nintendo
Okay.
hooked up
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Mario Kart
yeah,
back then.
yeah.
It's so random. Jordan Talbot, which promotion in the UK, Progress, ICW, etc., would you like to work in the most?
I'll take any of them, to be honest, but I'd probably Progress is the place to be in the UK at the minute. Like definitely in England, that's where all the bigger names definitely go.
Is that where like Triple H showed up, or was that ICW?
That was ICW.
ICW?
Yeah, that was ICW.
Shannon McCullough, favorite match. Favorite match, one of your own. Favorite match, one of your own, and another wrestler. Not sure what that means.
I'm presuming that's just you asking me my favorite match.
Yeah, I guess. P.S. Riker says hi, Charlie.
Favorite match? Good question. Two matches that stick in my head. The tag match we had at IHW, that was a personal favourite, and I also had a 4-way at IHW, fatal 4-way. It was me, Chip, Durning, and Shane. And I went a little bit more like, I don't really wrestle like indie style, but like I pulled out a couple of things that I didn't think I could do, like. And the crowd were just red hot for it. It was the first match I had coming back to IHW.
Okay.
The second time, and it was just a match I was very proud of. So yeah, that's definitely up there as well.
Okay. Back to some regular questions here. Who's the best wrestler you've ever seen, live or on television, or like anywhere?
Best wrestler I've ever seen.
Who's your favorite wrestler to watch, all time?
From a wrestling standpoint.
Other than John Cena.
Yeah. I was always a big fan of Cody Rhodes.
Okay.
Someone who I just had endless potential.
I think you would have just missed him. He came here the end of 2016 or something.
Yeah. He was definitely
Nice
one of
guy.
my favourites.
Yeah.
And as I said, Pete Dunne at the minute is just on fire.
Your thoughts on the effort a pro wrestler needs to have in the gym, getting properly trained and getting booked other places?
It's definitely something you have to take as a full-time job. Like you always have to be thinking of something in the gym. I've been training since I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I was always lucky because I was always like a big person, so I could always get into gyms because we have age. I don't know if you guys have age restrictions.
We do. It's like 16, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Diet and training. Like most importantly, diet. Diet is the most important thing. And training, like you have to be in the gym all the time. I train 6 times a week.
Yeah.
I give that extra day just to recover.
Yeah, you need that to grow.
Yeah, of course. But you have to be in there, like strength training, lifting big weights, cardio, stretching, all that kind of stuff. It's good over here because you can get what you need out of most gyms because they have tanning, they have their weights, they have the cardio, they have massage, like all that stuff. Like it's a perfect utensil. And it's very much like you don't have to be the best wrestler in the world, but if you got a body on you, like I'm still working on mine and I've been training for 10 years. It's not going to come like that. You just have to be consistent with it. In terms of wrestling training, like I find that for people to take you seriously, you just have to know what you're doing, and for the safety of others. Like the first thing I do when I come back from a match is make sure that the person's okay. That if they're okay and it was a good match, I'm happy. As a worker, I don't want to go in the ring with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. It makes my job harder and it puts my safety and their safety at risk. So I wish there was like longer training here, just so people would have that. And in terms of booking, it's like that's just, it's not easy getting booked to other places, especially in other countries, but it's just something you got to keep chipping away at. I always struggled with like knowing how to branch out,
Right.
and just how to like the little ways you can use social media. Like Maddie taught me the ways that I should do it.
Yeah.
Like she knows way more about that stuff than I do. So yeah, it's just about learning the best ways to do it.
Why do you think a lot of people neglect the gym? It seems like it's a no-brainer. Like you don't have to look like a bodybuilder, but you
No,
have to be
yeah.
in shape, right? You have to
Not
be
yet.
strong
Not
enough
everyone
lift
has to look like
somebody.
The Rock or anything
Yeah,
like that.
but you gotta. And it seems like it's the thing that gets overlooked the most.
Yeah,
Or
and
at
it's the
least
most
one of them.
important thing.
Right.
Like, I think it just comes down to effort.
Yeah.
Like you don't even need to go to a gym to get in shape.
No.
Like there weren't always gyms available to everyone.
Yep.
Like you can go outside, you can, there's something heavy in your house, just lift it.
Yeah.
But I think it just comes down to effort levels. I appreciate not everyone has money to go to the gym, and I appreciate not everyone has like money to buy lots of healthy food and all that. But you can always make a difference, regardless of your situation. So I think it just comes down to enjoyment and being bothered to get up and go.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I never had that because I just always enjoyed the training. I always find it's a huge stress reliever. And it was always something I was pretty good at. Like I was always, something I kind of took to.
Yeah, you mentioned you don't always need a gym. I remember being on the road with like Scott Savage and Sarah Stock, and they had a resistance band with them. They would do that like in the hotel room, and they do push-ups and sit-ups and crunches, like just whatever they could, right? You can always make do with something.
Of course,
right?
yeah, and you can always like you do press-ups in your bedroom. You can.
Yeah.
I used to live next to a forest that had hills and all that kind of thing. I'd go in there and just run and all
outside.
that. Kind of, yeah, exactly.
Do something.
It's not hard. Yeah.
Have you? How many provinces have you wrestled in? Have you?
I've wrestled in 9.
9? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
9 or 10.
Yeah,
The only one I haven't done is in Newfoundland.
Newfoundland. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm
Sorry,
very keen
Newfoundland.
on ticking that off.
They don't like me at the moment.
Yeah, very keen on doing that because, as I said earlier, I don't know many people that have wrestled in that many.
Yeah.
I can only think of 2 people.
Nowadays,
yeah.
like not Madison.
Yeah.
And
I can only think of 2 people that have wrestled in all of them.
I think Wildman Gary Williams has. I don't know how well you know him.
There may be more. I know. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I don't know him as well as I could.
Yeah, but there's not that many.
But like for me, I've been here about a year.
Yeah, it took him like 20 years.
Yeah. So to say in just over a year, and I don't know anyone who's done that in that short period of time.
No,
You
you
may
might
know
be.
someone
I
that
don't
might-
know.
I can't
There's not
think of
very many people that have done it in general.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody that's done it that fast.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody.
So I'm very happy to say that I've done that many in that short period
That's
of
awesome.
time. Yeah.
Thoughts on the support the fans give you and give Maritime Wrestling in general?
I think it's great. I think it's really, really good that, well, obviously that, with the stuff going on, I think it's really good that people support the companies. They've shown me so much to support. I wasn't actually expecting such a good kind of support system from them. But everyone seems like everyone who goes to IHW, they all seem like a family. They're all you recognize the same faces, and it for them. Not everyone can afford to go to the WWE shows because they cost a lot of money. So for some people that those IHW shows to them are the WWE shows. It's the same thing for them. So I think it's if people want to keep wrestling around, the support is what's needed, especially to grow as well.
Yeah. If you could put one match of yours on a DVD to show somebody what you do, what match would you choose?
As a big guy, I had a match with Fantana at Riverview.
Okay.
Poor guy was a bit beat up after it. But just as a big guy, it kind of shows what I can do, and it gets that aggression across. So I definitely put that up there.
Have I left anything out that you wanted to touch on, or anything I forgot that you wanted to talk about?
Not that I can think of. No. Just if if you want to keep updated and see where I'm going and all that kind of thing, just check out Instagram, Charlie Winston Official. Also Charlie Winston on Facebook. There's also a website, charliewinstонofficial.com, where you can check out merch and upcoming dates and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I appreciate all you guys, and yeah, I think that's it.
Do you have any closing comments for any fans, friends, or family that could be watching this?
Not that I think of. Just keep showing the support, and anyone back home who ever wants to come out to Canada and come and experience the wrestling over here, like, you know, I like to try and I like to think that I'm a connection between two countries. That if there's people from England who want to come over here, I'm not saying I can get you booked everywhere, but you know, I never claimed to say that.
You have a place for them to stay? At least?
Yeah, there's a place to stay. Like I can link up with the right people, and same for here to England. It's, you know, I'm always happy to help.
Who's someone from England that you would like to see come over here right now?
Alex Young.
Alex Young?
Yeah. As I said, he's not a well-known person. I've wrestled him a couple times.
So you have matches on YouTube that people can go?
Yeah, it should be. Okay. How old is he? I think he's like 25, 26.
Okay.
And he's been wrestling for nearly 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And he is someone, the thing I like about his wrestling, he doesn't do stuff. He just makes everyone else like $100, like $1 million even.
That's awesome.
So like, I would love for him to come over here. I learned so much from him, and I know that so many people around here. Thanks for that, Scruff. I appreciate that. There's so many people around here that can learn from his knowledge.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to do this interview today. I really appreciate it, and I have absolutely no doubt that I'll be watching you on WWE television within the next few years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.